Welcome to the Black Gods podcast. Today we're talking about something that's real, sensitive, and honestly necessary to address, and that's the tension, pain, and disconnect that can exist between Black men and Black women. This is not about attacking, this is about understanding. Because if we don't understand the root, we can't heal it. A lot of Black women feel unseen, unprotected, unappreciated, and disrespected, not just by society, but sometimes within our own community. And that hurts on a deeper level because the place you expect safety from is the place that sometimes reflects the same wounds back to you. And at the same time, there are layers to this. We have to understand that both Black men and Black women have been shaped by systems that were never designed for our wholeness. Systems that distort identity, systems that create insecurity, systems that reward dysfunction and misrepresent what healthy relationships look like. When we talk about misogyny, especially toward Black women, we have to look at where it comes from. Because most of the time, it doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from conditioning. It comes from trauma. It comes from internalized messages about worth, power, and identity. Some Black men grow up in environments where they are not taught how to process emotions, how to lead in a healthy way, or how to build with a woman. Instead, they're taught survival, dominance, or control. And when a man feels powerless in one area of his life, sometimes he tries to reclaim that power in unhealthy ways. That can show up as disrespect. That can show up as trying to control. That can show up as tearing down instead of building. Now let's talk about something real. When a Black woman carries herself with confidence, education, stability, and self-respect, that can be inspiring, but it can also be triggering for someone who hasn't done their own inner work. Because confidence reflects back to people what they haven't built within themselves. A healed, grounded, confident woman requires a certain level of accountability, maturity, and emotional intelligence. And if someone doesn't have that, instead of rising to meet it, they may try to diminish it. Not because you're too much, but because they feel like they're not enough. That's where resentment can come from. It's easier to deal with someone who is unsure of themselves than someone who is grounded. It's easier to manipulate someone who is seeking validation than someone who knows their worth. And when a woman doesn't fit into limiting stereotypes, there's nothing to use against her to lower her value. So instead of appreciating her, some people may try to break her down. That doesn't make it right, but it helps explain the behavior. On the other side, we also see how stereotypes affect perception. Black women have been placed into boxes for generations. The angry woman, the loud woman, the difficult woman, the too independent woman. And no matter where a Black woman stands, she is often criticized. If she is soft, she's seen as weak. If she is strong, she's seen as aggressive. If she is independent, she's seen as threatening. If she struggles, she's judged. That constant contradiction creates frustration. And what we have to understand is that these stereotypes were not created by us. They were created and reinforced over time to divide, misrepresent, and control narratives about Black identity. So when those ideas show up within our own community, it's not always because people are intentionally trying to harm each other. It's often because those ideas were internalized. But internalized does not mean acceptable. We have to be honest about the impact. Disrespect toward Black women is real. Lack of protection is real. Feeling unappreciated is real. And at the same time, we also have to acknowledge that healing requires responsibility on all sides. Because if we stay in blame without growth, the cycle continues. There are Black men who are doing the work, who are learning, who are healing, who are building, and there are also Black women who are doing the same. The issue is that the louder narratives are often the unhealthy ones. The solution is not division. The solution is awareness. We have to start asking deeper questions. Why do we feel triggered by each other's growth? Why do we see each other as competition instead of partners? Why do we repeat patterns that hurt us? Because at the end of the day, a healed man does not feel threatened by a confident woman. And a healed woman does not need to shrink to be accepted. Healing raises the standard for both. Black women deserve to be appreciated, respected, and protected, not because they have to prove anything, but because they are human beings worthy of that by default. And Black men deserve space to heal, grow, and step into their full selves without being trapped in harmful patterns that were never meant for them. We have to move away from survival dynamics and into building dynamics, from tearing down to uplifting, from competing to collaborating, from misunderstanding to communication, because the truth is we need each other, but we need each other in a healed state, not in survival, not in resentment, not in projection, but in growth. This is not about ignoring the issues. This is about addressing them in a way that leads somewhere better, because cycles don't break through blame alone. They break through awareness, accountability, and change. And I want to go deeper into this because there are layers to it that we don't talk about enough. A lot of Black women are not just dealing with disrespect, we're dealing with contradiction. No matter what you do, it feels like you can't win. If you carry yourself well, you're educated, you're stable, you're confident, you're building something for yourself, you get labeled as too much, too independent, too strong, too intimidating, like your success is somehow a problem. But then, if you don't have it together, if you're struggling, if you fit into the stereotype that society already painted about Black women, then you get disrespected even more. You get looked down on, you get called names, you get dismissed. So it's like no matter where you stand, you're being judged. And that's not by accident, because those stereotypes were created to box Black women in. And once you step outside of that box, it confuses people who rely on those stereotypes to feel comfortable or in control. When you don't fit the narrative, they don't know how to treat you, they don't know how to place you, and instead of adjusting, some people react with resentment, especially when you're a woman who has herself together. When you're confident, when you're self-aware, when you're healed, when you're not easily manipulated, that can trigger people who are not in that same space, because now they can't control you. They can't project onto you, they can't lower your value to feel better about themselves, and instead of rising to meet you, some will try to bring you down. That's where you start seeing behaviors like pretending to like you just to get close, not to build with you, but to take from you, to drain your energy, to benefit from your success, to chip away at your confidence. That's real. Some people are drawn to your light, not because they want to grow, but because they want access to it. And if they can't control it, they resent it. That's why sometimes the more you have yourself together, the more resistance you feel, because you're not easy to break. You're not easy to manipulate, and that threatens people who operate from insecurity or unhealed spaces. And let's talk about something else. It's easier for someone to feel powerful over a person they can look down on. If someone fits into a stereotype that society already devalues, it becomes easier to disrespect them, control them, or dismiss them. But when a woman is confident, grounded, and knows her worth, there's nothing to use against her. You can't shame her into shrinking. You can't manipulate her into accepting less. You can't make her feel small. And for someone who relies on control to feel powerful, that's uncomfortable. So instead of respecting her, they resent her. And this is where a lot of the tension comes from. Now, I'm not saying this is every Black man. It's not. But it is a pattern that exists, and we have to be honest about it if we want to change it. Because too often, Black women are the most unprotected, the most disrespected, and the most unappreciated. And sometimes that pain hits harder when it feels like it's coming from your own community. That doesn't mean we turn against each other, but it does mean we have to call things out for what they are. There's also a pattern where Black women are constantly compared to other women, whether that's white women, mixed women, or what society labels as more acceptable. And that comparison is used to devalue Black women. That's not love. That's conditioning, because again, this all ties back to systems that taught people to see Blackness as less than. And if that mindset isn't unlearned, it shows up in relationships. But here's the truth: a healed man does not need to tear a woman down to feel like a man. A healed man does not feel threatened by a woman who has herself together. A healed man builds, protects, and respects. And a healed woman does not need to shrink herself to be accepted. She doesn't need to play small. She doesn't need to perform struggle just to be seen as relatable or acceptable. She stands in who she is, and that's the goal. Because at the end of the day, this is not about staying stuck in hurt. It's about understanding the pattern so we can break it. We have to move away from survival dynamics where it's about control, ego, and insecurity, and move into building dynamics where it's about growth, respect, and alignment. We don't need more division. We need more awareness. We need people doing the work. We need people healing. We need people choosing to grow instead of projecting their pain onto others. Because when you heal, you don't hate what reflects strength. You respect it, you learn from it, you build with it. And until we get to that place collectively, these patterns will keep repeating, but they don't have to. This is the Black Gods Podcast.